Hi, Assalamualaikum and very good morning everyone. We are delighted to have you guys for us today webinar Bridging the Gap Skills, Strategy and Automation in HR Transformations. Before we begin the sessions, let me introduce myself. My name is Zafrina binti Zainal. I'll be the facilitator for today's sessions. To start with, I would like to take you through the functionalities of the webinar platform. First and foremost, the session will be recorded and the link will be shared to all of the attendees by later this week. Throughout the sessions, our team will manage the Q&A functionalities. If you have any questions for our speakers, please enter the same in the questions window on your control panel. Your queries will be answered at the end of the sessions. For all attendees, the microphone will be muted to prevent any distractions. Your participation is important through the sessions. I request the attendees to kindly excuse for any sort of background disturbance from our side. Okay, for today, our focus for this webinar will be on getting as many insights as possible from our panel of experts. By the end of the sessions, key takeaway for today, we will be more clearer with broader questions in mind, such as how can we close the skill gaps? How can we streamline the HR processes? How can we harness the power of automations? All right. Next, can you share screen? Yamina?
Can you not see my screen?
Yeah, you're not able to see your screen. All right. Okay. Before we jump into it, for those audience who are not familiar with Yash, let me share a short background. Who are we? Yash Technology is a global technology integrator and a leading SAP partner globally, with a team of 8,500 talented professional consultants globally, with a 43 delivery centers, and we have been employer of the choice over 10 years in a row. We partnership with several Fortune 500 companies in supporting their digital transformation journey. For the past 29 years, we have built strong team around technology areas such as SAP and Center of Excellence in industry verticals like manufacturing, wholesale and distribution, banking and financial institutions, transportations and logistics, pharmaceutical, healthcare, a company that involved in Malaysia such as Babas, Central Sugar Refinery, IFCO, and many others. Next. Without further ado, I would like to introduce our speakers for the day, Miss Lavina and Miss Swati. A little bit of introductions. Miss Lavina is the HR transformation leader at Yash and has more than 10 over years of experience. And next speaker, Miss Swati, she is our practice lead, OCM and people advisory who has more than 16 over years of experience. Over to you, Miss Swati.
Thank you, Zafrina, and thank you everyone for joining us today for this session. So let us understand first and foremost, why is there really a need for transformation, HR transformation rather. And before we really deep dive into the main crux of our webinar, let's understand why some of these triggers for HR transformation. So one, what we understand is that the business landscape today is changing and changing at a very fast pace. Now there are multiple reasons for it. Some of the key ones being technology being a disruptor. As we all understand that technology has been changing and evolving every 2 years, and what it really means for an organization or a business workspace is that to stay relevant, they need to keep up with the pace of the way the technology is evolving. So with the introduction of AI, with the introduction of robotics, with the introduction of the chat GPTs getting into the workspace, it's becoming even more critical for organizations to ensure that they stay relevant by keeping them in pace with how the market is evolving, how the industries are evolving, right? What we also see that there is a shift in the way the employees work and engage with an organization. And that again, sort of ties back with newer and newer generations which are getting associated and getting introduced into the workforce, right? Now, with newer generation, the way they work, the way they interact with the organization, and also their expectations from the organization has shifted from probably the previous generations, and therefore you see HR trying to have to accommodate some of these generational workforces and their expectations into their organization. um, what we also see is that there is a rapid pace of digital transformations that is happening within an organization. What it means is that by virtue of those transformation, the employees are now not just expected to do business as usual, but they are also expected to pick up on and support on some of these transformations. And it could be in any capacity. It could be as a user, it could be as a business process owner, it could be in any capacity as a stakeholder. And what it means is that not just the 9 to 5 or a 9 to 6, but the roles and responsibilities beyond the business as usual. After a certain time, the expectation from an employee to be productive, to be efficient, to be able to give their 100% on XYZ things sort of starts triggering that change fatigue. And therefore, the need for HR to sort of ensure how do they accelerate the digital adoption, and how do they keep the employees engaged and address some of these challenges which they face with these digital transformations that are happening. We also see that the challenges that are there in the traditional HR models uh, are creating that rift from a technology standpoint, from a skill gap standpoint, and also there is a personalization deficit that we see by virtue of the traditional way with which the HR models used to work with. And therefore the need to shift to a much more I would say hybrid or a newer way of HR models, which can address and keep up pace with business, ensure that they are catering to the skill gaps which is there in the market, and also giving that personalized user experience to their employees going forward. Now, if we were to take it a step forward and try and understand some of the HR trends and the HR priorities, which are pivoting for organizations, and to focus on the Southeast Asia region, because we have a lot of audience which is joining us from that particular region. Um, we see that there are a lot of economic and regulatory changes which are happening in Southeast Asian countries, right? Just to give you an example, Malaysian government right now is giving a lot of focus and a lot of weight to upskilling. What it also means is that they understand and identify that there is a skill gap and a talent gap which is there in the market, and therefore the need to drive by introducing some of these upskilling initiatives into the market. From a workforce and demographic talent shift, we realize that there are regions like Singapore, Thailand, where there's a lot of aging workforce, and therefore the need for HR leaders and the need for HR to then start attracting and retaining talent, not just from those regions, but also to start attracting talent from neighboring regions, or to enable the digital or the remote workforce, right, to be able to address those skill gaps. From a skills and evolution standpoint, if we talk about it, we see that there is a shift from the role based hiring and the position based hiring to a more skill based hiring. We also see that there is a higher need in the market for skills like digital, analytics, leadership skills, etc. Again, something which each and every organization today is in need for and is looking to sort of evolve as this digital landscape continues to evolve. We also see that there are, of course, the digital disruptions which are happening in HR and work by virtue of AI, by virtue of automation and robotics, which is, sort of redefining the job and the market workplace. There is also a growing contractual workspace, which, now the organizations need to cater to. And therefore, how do you interact with that contractual labor force? What kind of labor laws are required around it, et cetera, will sort of drive some of these trends. What it means for the HR leaders, what it means is that they have to be very, very fast in terms of ensuring that they are able to attract the talent. And therefore, their HR strategies should be such that they are able to attract and retain talent. They are able to provide the personalized user journey to their employees. They are able to address the challenges that employees face today, to be able to attract, diverse workforce, and therefore the need for diversity, inclusion, and equity. To be able to, upskill the workforce in line, in tandem with the business needs. Again, more towards the digital, the skills, AI, robotics, etc. And then also ensuring that, the newer HR, or the new way, the way with which HR works, they're able to provide data driven HR and workforce analytics to their HR leaders, so that they are able to make faster decisions. They have real time understanding of data, they have real time visibility on data, and they're able to slice and dice it, and are able to take faster decisions in line with the pace of the organization. So, with that, I would like to hand over the mic to my colleague Lavina Nabar, who would like to take you through a case study and brings together, the HR transformation cutting across people, process, and technology. Over to you, Lavina.
Thank you, Swati. And Swati has already mentioned it, that today we stand at a pivotal moment in the evolution of human resources. The way that we manage talent or engage employees and drive business impact is being redefined by technology and innovation. And yet, many organizations still struggle with disparate HR systems, administrative inefficiencies, compliance risks, and even a lack of real time workforce insights. So today I would actually like to share a real world example of how we helped a global organization with over 8,000 employees transform its HR function by eliminating inefficiencies, enhancing the employee experience, and leveraging data driven decision making. So essentially, the challenge that this organization was facing was in the form of multiple roadblocks in its HR operations, which included disparate HR systems, that is, multiple platforms across the regions led to fragmented data and inconsistent processes. A higher administrative burden, actually, the HR teams were overwhelmed with manual tasks, slowing down core HR operations. They had compliance and security risks, which is due to a lack of integrated compliance checks for the data security and regulatory adherence. And of course, a lack of real-time workforce insights, which was the result of no centralized data. The leadership actually struggled to make informed decisions about workforce planning or talent management or performance tracking or the likes of it. And with that, on top of it, the employee expectations were also growing. So employees actually demanded a more seamless digital-first HR experience like their everyday consumer interactions. In order to tackle these challenges, we helped the organization embark on a comprehensive HR transformation journey by implementing an AI-driven automated HR ecosystem. So we integrated their disparate systems into a unified platform, automated key HR functions, reducing manual workload and increasing the efficiency, enhanced data security and compliance through centralized governance processes. This helped in providing real-time workforce insights, enabling the leaders to make informed decisions, and also in turn improving the employee experience by streamlining of HR services. And believe me when I say this, the results were actually transformational. So AI in recruiting reduced the hiring process time by 60%, which ensured a faster talent acquisition. Onboarding time, the overall time was cut from several hours to just 12 minutes, enhancing the new hires experience. Timesheet automation actually resulted in saving more than US $1 million, which reduced the manual interventions as well. And the overall processing time for benefits and or reimbursements was reduced by more than 66%, accelerating the employee access to critical HR services. And these aren't just numbers, they actually represent real business impact. Employees got faster, more efficient services, HR teams focused on strategic initiatives, and organizations actually gained deeper workforce insights. This transformation not only streamlined the HR processes, but also empowered employees and business leaders with real-time insights to drive workforce decisions. By adopting intelligent automation and a centralized HR platform, this organization actually set a benchmark for future-ready data-driven HR management. And just to give you a glimpse of how the overall technology architecture looks like when we implement such a system along with in tandem with the HR processes is this. So on your screen, if you are able to see, we have taken the example of how we have implemented SAP SuccessFactors as an ERP platform with integrations with different platforms for different services. This shows the entire hire to retire process, right from recruiting and onboarding, and even the assessments of the candidates before onboarding, sharing the offer letters, so a pre-boarding or a cross-boarding if required, entire employee database management, and identification and development processes, right from goal management, performance management, and the sorts of it. So for the purpose of ticketing, we integrated the system with ServiceNow. So SuccessFactors had a seamless integration with ServiceNow on the recruiting and onboarding related ticketing platforms. ServiceNow was also integrated for management of timesheet here. And we had Skillsoft and LinkedIn Learning as the learning platforms, along with Zozoday and Vantage Circle as the reward and recognition platforms. The entire payroll was managed through SAP Payroll, and the feedback surveys were run through Qualtrics. And all these things were put together with providing real-time analytics with the help of People Analytics through story reporting. If we move to the next slide, please. So what are our key differentiators, or what sets us apart? So in today's evolving business landscape, HR transformation is not just about implementing new technology. It's about ensuring long-term success through the right expertise, solutions, and change management. And that's what actually is our approach that makes us stand out. So we have deep industry expertise and proven HR process transformation across different industries such as education, healthcare and pharma, manufacturing, retail, etc. By which we are able to understand the unique challenges of each of these sectors. Our team of HR process transformation experts ensures that solutions are actually tailored to industry-specific needs, driving continuous value generation. We have certain pre-packaged solution. So our pre-packaged solution delivers structured, accelerated HR transformation journey, which includes pre-configured modules covering key HR functions such as core HR, talent management, and payroll. We have business process diagrams for a clear understanding of the workflows, user guides, test scripts, implementation methodology frameworks to streamline deployment, and built-in reporting functionalities for real-time HR analytics and workforce insights. This overall reduces the implementation time, risk in implementation, and even cost to a larger extent, ensuring faster time to value. Strong integration capabilities so HR systems do not actually operate in isolation. We have to leverage the advanced integration tools like SAP BTP and Boomi for seamless connectivity, or Signavio for that matter for data synchronization and process automation, and integrations between ServiceNow, SuccessFactors to optimize both HR and IT processes put together. This essentially ensures a unified, automated, and intelligent HR ecosystem, which eliminates silos and enhances efficiencies. Technology alone doesn't drive transformation, people do. And our OCM, or the Organization Change Management Center of Excellence, ensures that a successful adoption is done by the organization by conducting diagnostics to assess what is the change readiness, establishing adoption KPIs, aligning leadership to drive a culture of transformation, building super use communities to actually champion change within the organization, fostering HR IT business collaboration for seamless education, and performing risk assessments to proactively address potential roadblocks. This would be further detailed out by my colleague Swati in just a bit. But just to end with, from my point of view, we are not just any traditional vendor. We are an end-to-end HR transformation partner because we provide comprehensive HR transformation services that go beyond technology implementation. And we like to work with organizations to actually assess their HR and digital transformation readiness, defining a clear roadmap for implementation and providing ongoing support to their to ensure their long-term success. With this, I would like to hand it over back to Swati. Swati, over to you, please.
Yeah, thanks, Lavina. So we've talked about a people-centric transformations, right? So what do we really mean when we say people-centric transformation? What it means is that whenever there is a digital transformation undergoing in an organization, it basically impacts three pillars, right? People, process, and technology. And by virtue of any new technology getting introduced, or by virtue of the ways of working changing in an organization, there is a direct or indirect impact on the employees within the organization. So how do we ensure that there is a seamless transition? There is minimum disruption to business as usual, and also the way they are adopting to the new way of working is smooth, and there is enough comfort for them to move from a current state to future state. That is where we call out having a more people centric transformation when we put people at the core of that particular transformation. Now, if I were to further summarize on what Lavina already called out in some of her case studies, in terms of how a well done HR transformation can really impact, the people, process, and transformation. And if we move to the next slide, we'll be able to talk more about it. So, from a people standpoint, we have, say, for example, the employees, right? So, the current way with which they interact with the HR, vis-a-vis post an implementation or post a new system getting introduced, the way they would interact is probably via through a self-service portal where they'll have real-time access to their career growth, their plans in the systems, as well as learning modules, vis-a-vis in the legacy way of working where it could be more manual in nature, where they're reaching out to HR for payroll inquiries, application leave applications, etc., etc. Similarly, for HR, the onboarding, the hiring process could be much more automated. The level of steps that they need to take for interacting with a candidate could reduce from 10 to 5 just by virtue of getting on that system, right? Similarly, for a manager, real-time access to team performance, setting goals, identifying development goals. These are areas that can really save on time, save on productivity, and therefore, for a person to be able to focus more on the more strategic side of things rather than more tactical side of things. So that is how, in a very, very brief and short, summarized way of talking, how life can change post a solid HR transformation, right? From a process transformation, the workflows can change. So if, say, for example, an onboarding process is taking 20 odd steps, so really bringing it down to 10 steps by virtue of that particular system. So, the process, the before process and the to be process could change significantly in terms of, how the HR would use it via post the system is implemented. From an analytics and technology standpoint, the way HR leaders view data now, it could be workforce worksheets and multiple Excels that they might be looking at today, but post a solid, system getting introduced into the system, it could be, slicing and dicing real-time data, access to, the entire workforce analytics that they have, and therefore being able to take those decisions faster is something that can be enabled by any good ERP system, right? So while we take this example of SAP SuccessFactors, I do want to introduce a couple of more examples of how organizations in Southeast Asia regions are really upping their game. So one of the largest banking organizations in Southeast Asia has sort of recently introduced a chatbot, AI chatbot in their recruitment process, where this particular chatbot is able to automate the initial candidate interactions. And what it really does is it's freeing up HR's time to interact with the candidate early on, and therefore them being able to more focus on the strategic side of HR, whereas the basic L1 queries and the basic queries that a candidate may have are getting addressed by this particular chatbot. Now, similarly, if I were to give you an example of a very large airline industry which is there in Southeast Asia region, so they have a need for the temp workforce right during their lean periods and peak periods. So by introducing workforce analytics in their organization, they have been able to now visualize how and when their peaks and their lean periods are, and are therefore able to do a better planning on their manpower and how to address some of the gaps from a talent standpoint, and are also able to optimize their labor cost. So these are some of the efficiencies that you see will getting introduced by virtue of having a good HR system into place. And more we are seeing that organizations are now undertaking these kind of HR transformations as they move forward. So moving on to the next slide now, to bring the story together with how OCM sort of ties in the overall HR transformation story together. So when we talk about OCM, from a YUS standpoint, we have it bucketed into three key areas. We have OCM for phase 0, we have OCM for project life cycle, and then we have OCM for post-go live user adoption. So the phase 0 offering or the early OCM assessment and diagnostic basically caters to organizations who are just about to take an implementation, and it could be any kind of HR transformation. It could be SuccessFactors, Workday, etc., right? So we associate with them, define the case for change, build their benefit case, identify stakeholders who are going to get eventually impacted, link the program objectives, goals with the larger business goals and objectives, and sort of support them throughout that journey. The OCM for project lifecycle primarily starts when an organization has decided which technology or which transformation they have decided to go with, and therefore we associate them and sort of ensure interventions which are more strategically targeted towards their employees who are getting impacted by that change, and to take them through that journey in a very seamless fashion by making sure that they have the awareness about the change which is going to come, building the desire to really adopt to the change, building their capabilities and knowledge by giving them training capabilities, communicating what are the changes that are going to hit them, building a super user community, as Lavina was mentioning earlier as well. And then also ensuring that we are assessing, sort of course correcting by virtue of doing assessments, effectiveness assessments, etc. So that is the project life cycle. And then we have the post-go live user adoption, wherein we also want to understand that once an employee has sort of undergone the entire transformation journey, has the user adoption really kicked in? So to do that, there are certain interventions around measuring, in a quantitative as well as a qualitative fashion. Some of the adoption metrics, defining those KPIs, and then sort of assessing if the user has really adopted to the new way of working. Moving on. So if we move to the next slide, so this will just give you a very high level glimpse of how some of those adoption KPI really look like. Okay, so typically we tend to bucket them in three categories: people, process, and technology. That has been the theme of this particular, conversation that we are having today. So from a people standpoint, if I were to just give you a flavor of, some of the KPIs, so training completion rate, user feedback and satisfaction, task completion rates, ticket resolution time. When we say ticket resolution, this is more to do with the help desk side of things, right? So the L1, L2, and L3 queries, and then how do they get addressed? What kind of queries are coming in? Are they more associated with training, knowledge, understanding? And then how do we really address those, right? Data accuracy in terms of what they are really putting in the system, right? So it has to be accurate in terms of what goes in and what goes out in terms of analytics, right? From a technology KPI standpoint, user engagement matrix, right? Their interaction with the platform, how frequently are they logging in, page views, time spent on system. Usage of reports. So again, the custom reports as well as the standard reports that you would be able to generate out of a system. So how frequently and how regularly users are really downloading those and using those for their day-to-day operations. Easy to use functionality, improving productivity. Again, just to get a sense check in terms of have things really changed for them before versus after. From a process standpoint, adherence to policies, adherence to processes, adherence to standard way of working. So this was just to give you a flavor of how some of these adoption KPIs work. If we move to the next slide, I would actually like to hand it back to Lavina, sort of to call out, how we can help going forward. Back to you, Lavina. Lavina, you're on mute.
I'm sorry about that. Thank you so much. So basically, we want to understand or help you out into various aspects of your organization on your HR and digital transformation journey. So why should you be partnering with us? Because we have an experience, decades of HR transformation expertise across multiple industries. We have the technology leadership, so cutting edge automation and AI driven HR solutions are our expertise around that area. We have proven results wherein we have demonstrated impact in cost saving, efficiency gains, and improved employee experience. So then what are the next steps? HR transformation is no longer a luxury, it's a necessity. So by embracing automation, AI, and the integrated solutions, we can actually create an HR function that is agile, data-driven, and more employee-centric. So we now invite you to actually take the next step with us. We can help you out in a consultation to assess your HR transformation readiness. We can also give you a live demo to showcase our solution in action, or we can help you out with a pilot project to experience the tangible impact. So let's reimagine HR together. Thank you so much. And